And welcome back to TIA 2014, day 2 of our 3-day conference on the Network of the Future in Dallas, Texas. With us in the Dell TIA Now studio is David Hurd. He's the president of JDSU's Network and Service Enablement business segment. And David, welcome to the program.
Yeah, it's good to be here.
I was able to catch you in the room next door with a very elite group, if you will.
No. A lot of people going through a lot of immense change in the industry right now.
That's interesting. So we've had a number of interviews over the past couple of days about how software-defined networking and NFV, network functions virtualization, can be leveraged for cloud services and also virtual data centers. But it can also, in fact, be leveraged for optimizing networks.
Sure.
We don't have a use case yet about how that can be done. Can you give us an example of how that can be done and how it benefits your customer?
Yeah, no, I think it's happening every day today. And I think the transition that's going on is you've seen it happen in the data center with as much data that's being collected around everything you do, with video services that are having to be delivered and cached, with all the cliches of how much data are being created, right? They say, I think, from the data that's been created in the last couple of years, that's been created on digital is all the data from 2002, through the history of time. So in the data center, that's really happened. You've seen server technology go virtual. We've heard about virtualization in the data center. And it's really driven people to an applications world. And it's been driven out of necessity, because if you pull out your smartphone right now, you probably have 40 apps running on it right now. And in a network, what used to be, can you hear me now, can you hear me now, is really about how fast does my Facebook page refresh on my Galaxy 4. And so it's happened in the data center, and we heard next door Krish Prabhu, the CTO at AT&T, talking about how do I get that same kind of network efficiency, real-time flexibility for my customers when they're watching a home video service, or when they're in the back of a car trying to watch a program on a mobile phone using AT&T. And so I think a big piece of that we're seeing out in the network is how to separate the hardware from the software to make it more flexible, to make it more efficient, and to make it more open to allow people to collaborate. And I think we're seeing that every day now.
David, I know a big focus of yours is the convergence of big data and mobility.
Yes.
What kind of work are you doing in that space right now?
Well, it's the great example of mobility on a phone. With the amount of big data that's being generated on those phones, how do you really separate out what's useless data and what's meaningful business information that people can use to optimize a network, to drive down cost, and really to create cool new applications and services? And so what we're doing with players like AT&T and others is, we've created what we used to do to monitor a network was put big microwave-sized probes all around the network and try to collect that data. Can't do it anymore. You would fill states and states of servers with as chatty as the devices that we all have are. We've created a virtual platform to do that. So we've taken those probes, we've virtualized them into software that even can be placed into an ASIC and put all around the network, so that players like AT&T and others can pull back only the information that's useful to them in an SDN world, in an NFV world, where they're orchestrating the services for their customers to be flexible, again, cost efficient and scalable. Because again, you couldn't collect all this data around the world. So anytime you see a small cell go out, or anytime you put a new application on your phone and you want to know how that works, you got to have access to that data in a constantly moving world. And that example of virtualization of something that used to be a microwave-sized probe that you'd stack and plug into a network, we've now virtualized and made available all throughout the network to improve the visibility for network equipment manufacturers, for guys like Krish and AT&T, for operators around the world, and application developers.
David, you just gave us a reason for Telco to adopt SDN or NFV technologies, but what are some of the challenges along the way to get them to do so?
We were just talking about this. You're basically taking what was an IT world when we used to talk about development operations and net operations in data centers and enterprises, and you're taking it with network planning, with a strong history of how we hierarchical plan the network, and getting those two cultures, kind of IT and network ops, to work together on, again, common architecture, common principle. Challenge number one. Challenge number two is, I think, you've heard and probably read a lot about the ecosystem is going to change. It's going to change dramatically. There's a lot of people that have built multi-purpose devices with all embedded technology and routers and switches and other things that have to completely think differently and cannibalize what they've made lots of money on and been rewarded for over the last 25 years.
So David, are you saying that legacy networks with big operators like AT&T, Verizon, Sprint, are they ready for SDN, software-defined networks?
Are they ready for it? They are asking for it. They need the capital efficiency that they're going to get. Network operating cost is 3 times the capital costs. They need the operating cost efficiency. More importantly, they need the flexibility. I think one of the carriers around here was talking about their network traffic growing by 45% last year. I'm sure their CapEx budget isn't 45% greater. In fact, I know it isn't. And so for them to provide the new services and compete with whole new players that are providing over-the-top services, they got to be flexible. They got to be nimble. They got to be aggressive. And that's a new model. And again, that's kind of taking the IT guys of the world in the data center, what's worked very quickly, and putting it with what's been tried and true with 5 nines of reliability over the last 100 years in the network.
David, we haven't had the pleasure of speaking to you in the past. I can just tell just from this short discussion that we'll be speaking to you in the future.
Well, that's great.
It's always good to talk to leaders, companies, leaders in the industry, but also people that are leaders in the industry.
Yeah,
so
it's great to be here.
Thanks for taking the time out.
No, thank you for taking the time.
All right, David, thanks. Thanks for joining us on our coverage of TIA's Network of the Future conference. The Dell TIA Now studio will be streaming live throughout the conference. You can view our live stream and all of our programming at tianow.org. So long.